I went to a local comic shop today and bought some two new comics and 18 old comics from the dollar bins. So I just thought I'd show them here. Now, these ones here, I did not get today. These three comics here. I want to talk about these facsimiles before we get to the dollar boxes. These 18 comics in here are ones that I bought in the dollar boxes, and I have not opened them yet. So I didn't even open them at the shop, so I don't know what the condition is. So we'll find out together. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about these facsimile issues. Over on my Facebook channel, I had posted a short video showing this amazing Spider-Man #1 facsimile, which I thought was pretty cool. And so then later, the next week, I went to the comic shop and I picked up the Superman #1 facsimile edition. I already have the Millennium edition of this book that came out in the year 2000. And of course, I have other reprints of it as well, but of a sort of replica edition of the book. I have the facsimile from the Millennium edition from the year 2000. But when I looked at it, I was like, it's not it's not as good as this one, because this one, the center spread is correctly in the center where the staples are. If you look at the Millennium edition one, it's on like a different page. They put new ads in, so they like took out some of this stuff and put like ads for then current comics and so on. So I thought, I'm just going to get this one. It's $6.99, but it's one of my all-time favorite comics. And they had Tomb of Dracula #1 from 1972. This is a facsimile edition for $3.99. So I thought, oh, I'll get that. Again, I already have it in other things. I probably have it in two other different reprints. Probably the Essential Tomb of Dracula and also some other, 1990s one-shot reprint of it. But, this one has the ads and everything. So it's like almost like having the original comic, So let's see if it has the bullpen bulletins in here. I'm not sure if it does. This was sort of an extra long issue. But anyways, so those two I bought, or those three actually, including that Spider-Man one, those I bought a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to set those aside. Now we'll talk about the stuff I bought today. Now, so I had asked at the comic shop, hey, do you got the Action Comics #1 and Detective #27? First appearance of Superman from 1938. First appearance of Batman from 1939. And I think I have like the Treasury size edition reprint from the 70s of some of these. But I didn't have a proper one. In fact, I might even have them. I don't know if this came out in a Millennium edition or not. But I was so impressed by the Superman #1 that I thought, I'm just going to get these. And they are kind of impressive. One of my Facebook friends had pointed out that some of the reprints of these comics are altered. They don't have the original art anymore, so they had somebody redo the artwork, and in some cases it's not very good. And he used this panel, for example. See how it says, how can I ever thank Yo why gone? He's starting to say you, but he doesn't, the you doesn't show up. And you can see that the way that the little tanks with the little circles on the top, with the little rivulets, there's like 3 little rivets. You can see how it's drawn, right? Okay, so now we're going to take a look. I didn't buy this today. I've had this for years, but this is the Batman Archive Collection. And see how that same panel is done. Now, this is a hardcover book, but you can see, how can I ever thank you why gone? So it looks like it's a little different, doesn't it? And there's the tanks on that one. And you compare it to the tanks on that one. Looks like the little circles on the 2 little circles on the top are different. They're bigger on this one than on this one. Well, there's like a scan online. If you go to one of those, freebie comic scan things, where somebody has a scan of the original Detective 27. And apparently, in the original, it says yo instead of YOU on that. So this appears to be more faithful to the original. Apparently, there were photostats available of this story, but DC didn't use them originally. When they were doing these reprints, they just had somebody reconstruct the issue. And here's action number 1. Now, this is sort of a thing, although you can buy archive editions and things like that, this is sort of a keeper. If you're a comics fan, this is sort of a keeper issue. You want to have something that looks like Action Comics number 1 originally looked like. So can't beat that. All right, so that's that. Now we got all those dollar comics that I bought. So let's just take a quick look at them. A lot of these are Charlton ones. This is a Cheyenne Kid. It's a 20 center, so it's probably going to be around 1972, I'm going to guess. Looks like it's in decent condition. I'm not too much of a stickler about the condition. 1971, looks like. Yep. Drawn by San-Ho Kim, the Korean artist, I believe he was. This looks like a Fred Himes story. Wander. And then there's another San-Ho Kim story at the end. So pretty cool for $1. Can't beat that. Put this back in its bag there. All right, here's another one. Dragon Wheels, number 59, also 20 center. This one says only 20 cents. So I bet this is a little later than 1971. This is either going to be 72 or 73. 1973. How did I know? Because when they put the only or still at, that means that's a little bit later, that the price is about to go up. Well, this is one of those hot rod comics that Charlton published back in the day. The thing I like about Charlton is that they aimed at just the general reader. They weren't aimed at comic book fans. Again, this is in decent condition. Well, it's not perfect, but certainly better than some of my Charlton comics that I've had for years. And you can't beat it for $1, like I said. So now we have this romance comic, I Love You, number 106. So in the bag here. Decent condition. No obvious, it's not falling apart or anything. This is from 1973. See what the price, price is still at 20 cents. So they were holding the line. See if there's any unusual artwork on here. Sometimes you'll find something weird, a Steve Ditko story, or very rarely, or a some Nieto story, or a Pete Morisi story, which is different than the usual. Here's an issue of Fightin' Marines, issue number 110, again only 20 cents, with a Pat Boyette cover. They actually had 2 copies of this, so I didn't open them at the shop, and I just kind of looked at them in the bag, with the bag in front of me, and thought, which one do I want to get? They both look really good. So this does have a little stain there at the bottom, so that's unfortunate, but it doesn't seem to go into the rest of the issue. I think just on that first, just on the cover there. Let's see. So there's a Pat Boyette drawn story there. Another Pat Boyette story. A short one. A Don Perlin story. There's another Don Perlin, it looks like, DP. And this looks like a another Pat Boyette drawn story. Kind of tell the way the faces are drawn. And that's that. There's some of their war comics. All right, so the next batch of Charlton that we're going to look at are their ghost comics. And again, I got all these for $1. Now this Ghost Manor that we're going to look at here is Volume 1 of Ghost Manor, back before Mr. Bones was introduced as the narrator. He didn't appear till Volume 2. And this is a 15-center, so this is like 1969, I would guess. Oh, 1970. Again, another Sanho Kim story. And it's in nice condition. Can't beat that for $1. Another Sanho Kim. And another one, so he did the whole issue. This is pretty cool. There's an ad for their other Ghost comics. Now, Robin Snyder recently took me to task for referring to these as ghost comics, because he said, you know, historians have always referred to these as horror comics. But I've always referred to these Charlton comics as their ghost comics, their ghost line. They're not very horrible. Now, this comic here, I've had since the 1980s. I've had this copy of it, but as you can see, it was falling apart and everything. And it was on my comics list that those defects. So I saw this in there. I thought, well, I'll get this upgrade. It's not falling apart. That's another Sanho Kim story. So we'll just get to the next one here. And here's another one, Ghost Manor number 39. Let's see how I did. I'm surprised. Sometimes you buy these, and if you don't open them up in the store, you get some unpleasant surprises when you get home and you find, oh, it's all messed up. But so far, these are looking good. Looks like October 78, is it? Or 6? You'll be able to see better than I will, because it will be bigger on the screen. All right. So yeah, I didn't have this issue before. This is the period when it becomes reprints, though. So it's less interesting, but on the other hand, if you're a completist, you want to get all the ghost comics. All right, now this comic, too, I've had for years, since the 80s. And I really like this story, The Mirror of Yesterday, where this woman goes, this guy, she has this mirror, and he's from another time, and he comes rescues her away from the awful hippies, and so on. So, yeah, I love this story. Drawn by Joe Staton. Really, really good story. But like I said, my copy from the 1980s, not too bad, but it's rough. I've read it to death. So we'll get rid of this one, and this will be my upgrade. For $1, it's worth upgrading. And I didn't have this issue before, issue number 50. Looks like a Tom Sutton cover. Again, this is from the reprint period. Again, it looks like nice condition. Terrible Teddy. Yep, looks good. I'm very happy with that purchase. All right, and we got one more Charlton to go. It's a Many Ghosts of Dr. Graves. Now again, here's one I've had since the 80s, and it's falling, even the cover is falling off. So when I saw this on my list, now they actually had a lot more of these Charlton Ghost comics, and I had to put a lot back because when I looked at my list, I had the issue and I didn't have noted on there that it had a defect. So these other ones that I replaced, in my list I said, cover loose or cover crease or whatever the defect was. This is a good Ditko story. Nice artwork. But anyway, so this is the replacement, the upgrade. And so I can get rid of, now these three, I can get rid of the ones that are falling apart. Reading copies. All right, now to the non-Charltons. DC. Again, there was a couple, I think there was an issue of Ghosts in there, that in the dollar box that I already had. And sometimes you find these DC mystery comics is how they refer to them. This is from 1980. Sometimes they're all messed up condition and so forth. But this one looks pretty nice. It looked like an ER Cruise story. These were kind of comics that were ignored by fandom for the most part. But they're the kind of comics I enjoy. They are aimed at people who aren't superhero fans, or have all this investment in the medium. They're just looking for an enjoyable comic. The same way people go to the movies and they're not interested in the history of movies and, the studio, name of the studio that produced and all that stuff. They just want to be entertained. So I enjoyed those, that way of doing these comics. This is an issue of Brave and the Bold. This does have a 50-cent sticker on it, but I might just leave that on there. 154. It's a little rough there. There's like a crease there, a little fold there. But for a 1979 issue of Brave and the Bold, written by Bob Haney, how can you turn that down for $1 if you don't got it? They did have another issue of Brave and the Bold that I almost got from around the same period, but I looked at the bag and it had a sticker that said like $7.95 or something instead of the $1 that was on this one. So I thought, I don't want to take it to the counter and then make them think that I was, fooling around and putting an expensive comic in there. So I just put it back because I already have that other Brave and the Bold, but that I didn't buy. They had a bunch of Fantastic Four from this period, but this particular issue, number 321, was the one I was missing. I think I'm also missing like 329 and a couple from this period, which is not an acclaimed period. Ron Lim drawing this. That's unusual. This was usually a period with like, I think Keith Pollard and I think maybe John Buscema or Buscema. But anyways, with She-Hulk being popular, you would think something like this wouldn't be in the dollar bin. But I needed it to complete my set of, or not my whole set, but, fill a hole in my collection. Now, this issue of The Fly, I know is not going to be in good condition. We'll take a look. But how could I turn it down for $1? Looks like it's stained there. There's some tears and so on. But it's from 1962, it looks like. Fly number 21. I only have like 2 other issues of The Fly from this period before it became Flyman. And my other 2 copies are in a little rough condition too. One of them is more rough than this one. But this isn't too bad. This was just a good reader copy. Doesn't look like there's any big, chunks missing or anything. Or big nasty stains. Has a letters page in there. There's a Fly Girl page. All right. So I'm very pleased with it. I didn't open it up at the store. So I'm happy I didn't get something that was like falling apart or, unreadable or nasty looking. Sometimes you get something that's like It's a tight squeeze in there, though. I might just leave this out of the... Oops, I almost dropped that. I might just leave this out of the bag because it's awfully tight squeeze. I'll get a bigger bag for it. And finally, I just got some humor comics. Laugh #2, when they renumbered it. Jughead #1, from when they renumbered that. Harvey Hits #5, from the 1980s. And Richie Rich and Little Dot #1, which I think I saw for $1 at another comic shop and passed up. But this one looked like it might be in okay condition. We'll see. Oh, there's a little tear there. So it's a little rough. But not too bad. Looks like it's better than the other one I had seen at the other store for $1. Harvey Hits was a short-lived anthology series from the 1980s. They don't make them like this anymore. Put this aside. Looks like it's in decent condition. And Jughead #1. Wow. Beautiful. Well, there is a little crease there, it looks like. But, yeah, 1987. Volume 2, #1. When it got renumbered. And everything was getting renumbered back then. Awesome. And then lastly, Laugh #2. Which was started in the 1940s, but they got renumbered and looks like 1987 again. They had a whole bunch of humor comics for $3 each at the counter, but so I'm glad I got this one for only $1. The Sabrina story here too. All right, and that's it. A little bent corner, but we're going to unbend it. So that's my comic shop haul. In all, I spent around $34 today. $18 on the dollar boxes, and then the 2 comics, Facsimile editions. So that's what I got. Thanks for watching.